try to take something from that.
All right, folks, stick around. Do something for 'em.
Hulkamania.
All right. Welcome to the Patriot Hour. We got Scott, Ben, and Nate in the studio. We're working on getting Nate a microphone.
Yep.
Or just the fourth microphone in
Get
general.
him jacked into the show. We need to get more opinion and
Got the microphone, need a stand.
We have needs.
Ordered.
We have
Got
needs.
Need some other things. Hey, you should have caught the discussion during the break down in the garage. We need a little tap-in camera we could turn on in the garage hanging there eventually. It's garage talk.
Take our little
It's a
break.
little special segment that we can kind of post up as its own little series, Garage Talk.
Oh my
Garage
God, that
Talk.
one, that,
There
that
you
one
go.
right there
That
was
would
its
be a
own
good one.
segment.
Garage Talk.
Although
You heard
Ben-
it here first, folks. Garage Talk. Maybe
Coming soon.
Ben took it from here. I mean, he was all over the place, and I was following him, and then
It
my
was
mind
great.
went.
Yes. Poof.
Nate comes in and goes, "Man, Ben's a smart SOB."
Yeah. So what we do, we have good-hearted, smart people on this part of the team.
Logical
Hey,
people.
you know what? It just if we
Realists.
work. Hey,
We got
teamwork.
realists.
Hey, what's the best kind of work, man? It's going to be teamwork. That's what, we tell that to our kids, the kids in general. It's like, hey, you know, we're only as productive of those that we surround ourselves with, and so it's like, I mean, you know, that's why we're all here, because we're pretty passionate about this. And I think this what the last episode or the last part of the show we were talking about. Just that on that very basis is the morality of people coming together because of their like-minded, and we have the same, well, one can say the same moral values that are kind of synced up. You know, obviously we discussed our emotions and our feelings about the Second Amendment, and we based that off of, well, factual evidence of what we all feel and how we interpret and we read the Constitution. You know.
Going back to the last episode, the question we went off the air with, or air, I always say air, YouTube, whatever. We went away with what has changed. And off camera, the conversation started and it flows right into here. It's our understanding and our belief amongst four of us, morale has changed. Physically, guns hasn't changed. People
Humans
really
haven't
haven't
changed.
changed.
Yeah, we're still, you know.
Everything around us is the same that it has been 30 years ago. So the overall question, what has changed? Morale. And Nate brought up, well, parenting. Well, he's right. But parenting is part of the moral fiber. We've taken God away from schools. We encourage children not to pray. And we talked a little bit about Paul Harvey. You know, anybody that doesn't know Paul Harvey, Google him.
I could put a link down
You gotta
below,
watch,
something.
yeah.
Look in the description
If
box,
I was
folks.
the devil segment that he did, it was, what, a 5-minute, 6-minute, it makes your stomach turn, because he was right. And he did this back in the 70s, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the gist of it is, if I were the devil, I'd keep on doing exactly what it is I'm doing. You know, remove.
Don't change a thing. We're on the right path. And that's the problem is not having individuals in a community where they value truth amongst the ocean of lies, and trying, because you know, Mike has said it earlier, and we've all said it, one person can't get all of this stuff. I mean, you could be talking about one thing and you say something that triggers something that I saw or that Nate saw or one of us saw in a show. One of our friends had said in a conversation years ago that comes back to your memory. Like, oh my gosh. And then that somehow years ago that ties into what you're talking about now. And if you don't have that communication or that
chemistry.
Yes.
rolling
Yes.
along and being able to do that.
At one point, all four of us, you could see the light bulb went off on all four of us
Yeah.
as we're
Ding.
talking, and we all had something we wanted to say, you know, because we were feeding off of each, and it was just a ball that kept on spinning, and we kept beating up the morality question. And
Well, where does that, when, you know, the morality, I mean, you know, Nate did bring a good point about the parents. I mean, it's the parents' job, and we hear those on some side of the political aisle say that, well, it takes a village to raise a child.
I disagree.
I disagree 100%.
Hillary Clinton thought that too. She said, "Let the state raise
the
your
state
children."
no, I think less.
And so it's like that's the problem.
Less government
where-
involvement, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want to label me as something in which we've all talked about labels, I don't like to be pigeonholed in something. I believe in little government, big people. That's what I believe in, and the Constitution clearly states that. And so when you talk about the parenting thing, that's huge because, well, some people's kids. Well, what about the parents' parents and their parents' parents? When did it?
Your kids off on somebody else to raise them.
Yeah.
Don't let the teachers raise your kids.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Nate made a great point. Yeah.
They're not, people, we see it when you get a day off or it's bad. Oh, who's going to, they're not the daycare. They're there to get educated and
But and I'll play devil's advocate on that, and I've talked about this with you, and I don't know if anybody else, but when you drop your child off to that school every day, you are asking that school to be a big part in raising your children.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
And so many people then they do that, and then they handcuff the school with, well, you can't discipline Johnny or Sammy or Sally.
Yeah.
You can't do this. You can't do that. You know what? If you're going to give me all these I can'ts to help you raise this child to be productive, get your child out of this public school. I don't want you bringing your kid and having him sit next to my kid and you're giving the teacher a list of these things you are or are not allowed to do.
yeah.
And I've sent my kid to that school and gave the permission to the school to punish, paddle. I used to get paddled when I was a kid. That's
that
one
was
thing.
around when I was in school.
We can talk about, and I'm going to jot these down as we keep talking, but things over the last 30 years that have changed. You may not like it. I agree with it. Paddling. Paddling's gone.
Yes, the mythical paddling machine in the principal's
put on
office.
that
We all were
list.
scared of that machine. We knew that happened.
No, they used to do it. I'm not going to disclose where, exactly, but where I went to elementary at, they did it in the gym on Friday afternoons. People that were bad all week, they had the list, and then it was presented to all of us to watch other kids get paddled.
Shamed.
Wow, is that a public display?
I mean,
of
and this
breaking the
principal,
rules
this
and
guy,
then-
he was a big burly, and this paddle would have been something out of that you saw in
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
There was all
or
pride
Schwarzenegger.
put into it. And
What was the?
you could tell it whacked people before.
What was the Schwarzenegger movie where
Holes were drilled in
he
it.
had the big sword? Conan,
the
that
librarian, or the
paddle scare the hell out of you.
Well,
barbarian.
Getting back to we were talking about the moral and the parents, and it's just these movies that watching, and we could say, oh, it's the video games the kids are playing these days that are putting in that, or it's the programming on the television that they're watching, but it really breaks down is like Nate said, parenting. Well, if the parents don't understand fully what rights that they have, and if they're not operating through a mindset that I am a free sovereign individual in this country and start operating in that aspect, they'll never understand it. I mean, you talk about public schools, and I have children in public schools, and that's a huge personal battle that I fight all the time because
You're relinquishing
not
power.
only are
Yeah.
you relinquishing your power, what you're also doing is you're relinquishing your family belief system to a government state that says there is no God, we come from monkeys, and so the battle that I
Then why are there
personally
still
done-
monkeys, by the way?
Yeah,
Well,
they
exactly.
haven't evolved
Those are the-
anymore.
those are the
Only up
stupid
to this
monkeys.
point.
Those are the dumb-
stupid
yeah,
monkeys.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, what
and-
about the separation of breaking down family and getting away from working it out? The kids would see that. They've really done a good job with empowering, making people go separate, not work things out. The women can have their own household and raise the kids part time, and the dads can do it as well.
They almost encourage it.
Encourages 2 households. You get into the money aspect of it is for to be able to tax that many more citizens. And
One of you two said something earlier
Well-
about if you get 2 parents, the woman, and then listen, I'm not going to be
Mike was talking about this. I think this was part of the Garage Talk segment.
garage talk. That is a good segment.
Well, we talked about what was happening
We're letting you in on it.
when there was a huge influx of female workers in the workforce that was actually influx in our society. Well, it was when our our fathers and sons were going to war, and they were not working in the factories that were
Rosie
actually
the Riveter. Yeah.
That was Rosie River. We have these things to basically.
Hey, we got another person in the studio here.
Oh, we got great stuff. So we already have where they've empowered these kind of individuals to do this type of behavior, and we're sitting there relinquishing it and going on and doing nothing about it. And it's disheartening, but they've been starting it for two people. There used to be, I mean, we say, well, what happened to like Leave It to Beaver, the Waltons? I mean, here was something. I mean,
The Cleve.
did those kids grow up all messed up and having I got 2 Christmases and 2 birthdays and 2 this because mom's this and dad's that, and if I don't like what dad says, I can just call mom on my device and I can play them back and forth and see the
Kids that
problem
don't go through a divorced situation like that will never experience those things typically. So that does.
I didn't until I raised children in this way, and that's not what I asked for.
No, and we had that discussion. I remember you know, it's like, man, if, you know, and it's good advice to give to anybody. If there's any chance you could work it out, for the kids, right? For the kids.
For the kids. And,
But, you know,
but there's studies done, and there's professionals. Oh no, you shouldn't ever work it out for the kids. Well, why not?
Both sides aren't trying.
well, and there's
it's-
Nate, you bring
there's
a
a big
point.
separation of that.
Right.
That's-
On the kids.
Exactly. And so if you had it to where, you know, they actually promoted, you know what? If she wants to leave you because she's unhappy or he wants to leave you because of this, they promote infidelity.
Yeah,
They
if they
promote
promoted working it out and
yeah,
to
we
the
had
root
rap
of,
videos
you
or
know,
other music videos like yo, you need to stick together for the kids, make that money.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah,
one
yeah.
something like
Yes, sir.
buy land, read books,
Well, most country songs are about, you know, my woman left me and
you're
another
losing
beer.
something,
It's
a
always
truck breaking, if you know.
Yeah, I sure do miss my dog.
yeah, my
Yeah.
dog, my truck, and my empty beer.
So you see this, it's literally a breakdown because you're right. It's literally, what do you say? Or I think it was what you said. It's literally the moral collective fiber. If it's okay to do these wrong things and we're all okay with it, because there's 2 kinds of laws that I personally want to abide by. The first one is the law of God.
Sure.
And that's irrefutable in my book. The second one is the Constitution, because the Constitution allows me to protect and have a family. It allows me to have and protect my children. So if you think about, you know, God, country, and family and how that's a real, we just throw it out there. Well, if you take it that way, then you're going to be having individuals who want to work out that relationship because they understand that their
Correct.
children are going to be seeing this is not what women do, or this is not what men do. Men don't beat mom, and or they don't. This type of domestic doesn't happen because we're promoting sticking together.
I love that you just hit that because I'm with you 110%. At what point did God, country, and family become so damn wrong? You know, those things. If you have conversations in public, or
Now it's
or-
almost-
it's almost a fight starter.
It's a
every,
taboo
oh,
word.
God.
Very much taboo.
What do you mean,
word.
God? What do you mean, family? You know, we don't sit. People don't sit around the table anymore. And when I was growing up, my dad insisted, and I'm glad he did. And I need to get back to doing more of that at my house. We do it enough, but not near as much as I want. But he would come home probably the way that your fathers did. That was his time. He was gone all day.
Yeah.
His CNN was the table, right? He wanted to check in with the kids and find out what the news that day was.
How did your day go?
Right.
Yeah. What did you know?
We we talked, and I'm going to
So
go
that-
on to the other. The
that's-
4th
that's-
one is prescription drugs.
Look
right?
at this I just brought up.
Americans don't cite God, family, country quite like the cliche goes.
There you go.
You know,
I was reading they don't recite it anymore.
And a spin-off-
Americans don't cite God, family, country quite like.
I don't think the majority of Americans understand those 3 principles. Now, when you build a house, you start with a concrete foundation, right? And without making this a religious show,
Well,
if your
yeah.
first block isn't God or some kind of higher power, I don't care who you really believe in, but if your highest power is yourself,
You believe in
you
freedoms?
just started on the wrong. Yeah, right.
I do too.
Weird. But if your
That's
highest
awesome,
being, we all believe in something, and I have a lot in common with people that believe in at least some type of a God.
Yes.
But if your highest power is yourself, I'm afraid your house is already built on a slope.
And I agree with you. Very clearly,
Crap foundation.
My God says he'll build his house upon the rock, which is a solid foundation.
Correct,
And it's very much so. And it's like you can do the same analogy. You want to do a brick and mortar building. Well, God's your bricks and his word's the mortar.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and of course, I'm not a builder of homes. Do I know how to do some building? Well, sure, but I surround myself with people who understand
Correct.
with the same idea. And so having a shaky foundation on anything, that's why in this particular show, I think we're all in agreement when we talk about we want to base our discussions off of facts and off of stuff that we can say, okay, you can read, I can read, and does this sentence say that? Well, it doesn't quite say that. Well, why do you believe that way? Because I can see, this I can read very clearly.
I don't want to do what 41 did. Is it 41 or 42 when he said, well, it depends on what it is.
What is.
Was it number 40? Clinton was 42.
Clinton, yeah.
If you go backwards, 45, 42, 43.
Yeah, it was 40.
I don't want to. This show cannot be that. It is a two-letter word.
We use the English language
yes,
here, and
English
if you don't,
language,
then
folks.
maybe we haven't got the translators set up quite
Bottom
yet.
line, you build.
It cost us 117 million tax dollars right there with Congress.
Yes.
IT cost $117 million instead of the American people demanding for that individual just to say, tell the truth, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
Just tell the truth.
Just tell the truth.
That's
yeah.
$117 million that could have went towards building a wall or feeding the hungry or taking care of some vets. Oh, no, we spent it on immorality.
Yes.
If the president can do it, that's okay for me to do it. If it's okay for me to do it, now my kid's
jot
going
that down.
You know what I mean? It starts at the top. We said this out there in the garage segment.
We've seen where our money, our tax dollars go collectively, folks. We've looked up these graphs in the past. I know me and Ben have had them pulled up before. The graphs that show, where a percentage of tax dollars goes for like education and,
Well, they have a quarterly congressional tax breakdown of basically where it goes. And, when we've had discussion about, where has this money gone missing? Well, they're very clear. It's not black budget because we can go very clearly every quarter and have them when they have a release, an audit. Budget. Budget. That's how they say we're balancing the budget. You can go look at the budget and say how much is allocated to black op missions or black
that's
op
a
things.
huge
That's
amount.
there.
$500 billion.
That's a
But that's
huge
fine.
amount.
That's already been allocated.
Sure.
What we're talking about is the missing. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
The sin fund. The sin fund.
Like the coffers were full, boys, but somebody did some pilfering over the night, and
Well, the word "it" kind of slowed us up for
Whoa
7.5 weeks,
now.
and that cost a lot of money. So
Caught that hand in the cookie jar, huh?
I want to spin real quick into. I'm writing these down as we go. So we've talked about paddling, and I wrote down shamed. There was a time that it was okay to be embarrassed or ashamed. I went to the school bus stop once with a pair of holy boots. And I got made fun of and picked on and pushed around. You poor kid. You can't even. Well, you know what? I thought I was poor and I was embarrassed. I now know that I wasn't poor. I came from a family, five kids. So there were 7 of us. So you put bread bags over your socks.
oh, very well. We all.
But that's kind of like the bowling thing. It was a rite of passage, and it actually
Yes.
made me who I am. It made me understand that, man, I don't ever want to make fun of somebody for being poor. It wasn't my fault. But now you can't even do that. I mean, we don't even want our children to learn those tough. I'm not saying go bully kids.
And those are some of the toughest
I
times.
taught my kids not to bully.
Yeah.
No, and also taught them stand up for yourself.
If you
That's
see
right.
a bully being a bully.
No, and them were some of the toughest times on probably all of us. It's on the playground. That's where I've learned anything bad as growing up. It wasn't really at the house from my
When
parents
there really
who were trying
was
to teach
no
me good.
rules, yeah.
Maybe my sister had me in a headlock or
Mike,
something.
come over here in the
but,
tire swing. We're gonna,
Yeah. But you're right. It's
There was my dad always talked about it. When the welfare system was what it was when I was a kid. Now it's something so much more. Shame has left the table. I mean, it's not even a conversation. You used to be embarrassed or ashamed
because you
enough
couldn't
to get
take
up
care
and go
of your
get a job
family
or
and
something.
get-
They would
Right, that's
shame
right.
you into being successful. Nowadays, you really don't shame anybody. I mean, Scott, they all have feelings. I understand that, but I'm not here. I'm here to build people up. But I also want my children, your child, I want all of our kids to kind of go through some of that we,
Yes,
the
yeah.
rite of passage, a black eye. Tate knows all about a black guy.
You know,
Can't put them in a bubble and
No, I want the doctors say the same thing about mud and dirt. Don't wipe your kid down every second and make him watch. Get out there and get dirty. Build a stamina.
Get a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
of
Science. It's good for science.
build
right?
up
With
your
bacteria.
immune system a little bit. Get a little dirty.
So
you know, don't be
scientifically
so-
speaking, it's good to build your immune system up. But morally speaking, don't get stronger. Let the government tell
Depend
you
on them.
what you
and,
need.
Well, and then you talk about this, and this is where I personally diverge from. If it goes against my relationship and my values and my belief system, then red flags go off big time, crazy.
Yes,
oh my
yes.
gosh, this does not feel right, and that's just not your man's intellect.
And that's when they've been trying to shake out of people is take that.
Yes, that little voice of reason that tells
Yes.
you this is not right.
Retrain you to think, and that's what they blame now. If
Because they're the voice of reason.
yes, they've been telling kids like if you don't believe in this, for example, just your son meets the gay kid at school, and if your kid ain't accepting to him, they're now blaming you.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
You didn't
You've been
teach.
practicing
Right.
something.
didn't
It
teach
goes
your
back to the
kid.
guy on CNN that I laughed my rear end off when you showed me. The guy literally said, I might be wrong with my verbiage here, but he said, tune into us for the news. You're not allowed to see what they were trying to release.
Yeah, WikiLeaks.
But we're gonna get it, and then you tune
Folks-
in, and we'll let you know
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
need.
I can
What
almost.
the
I
hell
think I
is
can
that?
quote this almost a little better. He's like, folks. He's like, folks. WikiLeaks has released. Now, remember, it is highly illegal for you to view these yourself, but us as the media, we can break them down. You just tune on in here, and
Yeah.
we'll break it down
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Tell you exactly what they mean. Tell you exactly
what
what
was
they're
that?
trying to say.
So they can flop it and make
Yeah,
it exactly
yeah.
the way they
Oh
want
yeah,
it.
they'll spin the hell out of it.
yeah.
We go live. This isn't live. I mean, we don't edit anything. They do.
Now-
right? they have
Yeah.
conferences
Yep.
and
We're using a live software to capture everything here, folks, on the fly. So it's not editing, but we're wanting to go live. We just want to get a little more comfortable.
And
I think
no,
we
that,
all are.
That time will
but-
come when we do have lives, because we also want a part of this discussion in the studio. We want you guys out there. There's when we go live, there's an ability to basically have a comment section in chats, and we do want
Yes,
to hear
we
from
wanna
you
hear
guys.
from
And
you.
So it's
We
like
wanna hear from you.
We have these
Call in.
questions, and we're answering them to the best of our ability. But again, you talk about the shaming thing. I would love for somebody to comment and say, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I do believe that there's life experiences build knowledge,
Character.
but see, people think about knowledge and wisdom being the same exact thing, which is they're two different things.
Right.
Knowledge is knowledge. We're sitting here and we're telling you guys facts about the Constitution, the morality, and now of course that could be based on opinion. But if we're giving you the facts and you become educated to the fact, then you no longer consider you're ignorant to this situation,
Right.
or you can't no longer look away and say, you know what, it doesn't really affect me, because we do. When you talk about things that used to be done in the dark because of shame
Taboo.
are now no longer in the dark. They're being brought out into the light, and they're being depicted in a way, and we know this. They're calling evil good and good evil, and that's Mike had talked about that, and so this is at a time to where when they break down the moral value, it's okay for
then they can build you up the way they
want to. In the military, when Mike had talked about basic training, there's something that is an indoctrination tool that you can there's actually a field manual article on a field manual document on this, and of course we're not going to bring it up here. It's you can go look it up in yourself. It's basically it's a field manual depicting on basic combat training that every military individual, doesn't matter, Navy, Marines, whatever, has to go through some type of basic training. And the first 2 weeks that you're there, most likely the first week, a lot of the drill sergeants have something what they call the shark attack. Now, I'm prior Army, so I can speak from the Army basic training. I know, Mike, you're Navy, and so you can speak from the Navy aspect of it. But what this shark attack did is in the first week, the first actually couple of days you're at basic, You'd have you all lined up. You'd be sitting on top of your duffel bag, and these people would be screaming at the top of their lungs, "You're gonna rah 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 rah!" And what they're doing is they're creating an environment with an intense amount of pressure, psychological pressure, and they're looking for that one person in that group of 50, new soldiers who's sweating, who's twitching, who's acting that he can't handle it. They're going to hone in, and they're going to mentally and
Shark
almost
Tank.
physically grah. And we've seen people, in our basics, we've had guys commit suicide, jump out of windows because they couldn't take the actual intense mental pressure it takes, because they literally will break you down. And this is actually one of the military's, one of their mantras. We break you down
Build you
to
up.
build you up.
The way we want.
We
you.
want to.
That's right.
stripping you away from your civilian life to
They shave your
military
hair.
life.
This sounds eerily familiar with the way the government's currently doing things. We used to have this foundation called the Constitution, and now you can see them tearing it down to build us the way they want us.
Trying to dumb everybody down.
And as long as you stick with it's not up there anymore, but as long as, we talked about the pillars, the Constitution is my second pillar. God is my first.
Yeah.
Yours can be whatever, but God, my Constitution, my family. and
God,
things-
country, family. That's, country can wrap in Constitution and.
I wanted to get back to, the question.
But that point, that foundation, that whole past, and I had it here, it came to my head, but and I've said it many times, I'm sure other people have, but it's stand for whatever it is, stand for something that you're, whatever it is. If it's, like we said, I'm all about freedom. So if it's different than mine, at least you're standing for that and you're promoting it. But you stand for something constantly, or you stand for nothing indefinitely.
Oh, God,
and it's, you see the weave web, and anyway, let's move
You
on.
have the freedom to not have guns if you don't want to have guns.
Yeah, throw yours away. Don't try to convince me I don't need mine.
Yeah.
That's all I tell people.
Absolutely.
It doesn't take a law.
On your porch.
You don't have to have a law passed for
I
you to not have a gun.
I hate onion.
You don't trust
on
yourself?
my cheeseburger.
Throw it in the trash.
I hate onion on my cheeseburger. Why does McDonald's still have onions?
Yeah.
Well, you
That's-
have the
that's
right.
what we shifted out of that garage into this.
They know you don't like onions.
We've shifted. We've shifted from a culture of I don't like this channel, and I got about 500 of them on my TV, so I'm going to hit channel up once. But no, I'm going to stay on it and start writing letters,
And
calling
complain.
in, and saying I don't like it, I don't want to watch it, and therefore nobody else.
You couldn't even be bigger than yourself.
Yes.
Made it a
Yes.
whole lot simpler, cut through all the red tape, and 55
it's just
years
like
ago,
when
you had to
somebody
get off
says,
the couch and hit the
"Accept
button.
me."
They've made it so easy for you to be offended and change the channel, but you still
Yes.
don't.
Yeah.
The only thing they haven't done is changed it for you.
Well,
and
just-
that's coming
just
because
the-
Siri,
coming.
just
Yeah,
the
no,
point
it's
of
Siri
coming.
knows what you want to watch.
just the point of being offended. Like we said, being offended doesn't cost you
anything.
nothing. It's
You
not a
don't
new
wake up with
tax.
leprosy
Yep.
just because you were offended.
Well, your offense is really costing the family, Jimmy.
yeah.
It doesn't. It's not.
I got to get a second mortgage because you're offended. Well,
Yeah,
get
you
over
don't
it.
make laws off
Called rite
of
of passage.
being
Be
so
offended.
much
Get some
offended.
dirt on you. Get a black guy. But back to the question of when we left it. Going into this segment of what changed. The morality seems to be the big bold point, and then we're trying to build little bulletins underneath it. At number 4, I caught myself, and I think we all did, at medication.
Oh yeah,
Right.
meds.
We actually lead the world in a few
Dr.
categories,
Feelgood.
and over medicated is one of them. I mean, number of prisoners per capita is the incarceration per capita is probably number 1 in the world, but we're medicating. Right. So, and I made the joke outside, and I don't think it's a joke anymore. I mean, I've witnessed it, and I see it, and I know these kids. If you don't want children, do yourself and me a favor and don't have them. But because you're so busy with your life, because you want to be a professional, if you can't stay at home and raise your child, or at least have some kind of input, don't put a little blue pill in Johnny's mouth and put him in front of a TV because you're too busy.
Yeah.
To be a parent is just that. You had that child. You are responsible to raise that child. If you
agree.
can't handle it,
It goes back to Ben's comment on the video games. Video games are part of the problem, but that's because of parenting. They want to sit them down in front of a video game so they don't have to do anything.
correct. Great. You know, I
It's an
used to play
easy
Contra. You guys
solution.
remember up, down, down, left, right,
Oh,
A, B,
yeah.
A, B, select, start for
Don't
30
be giving away all the secrets.
Contra.
Whoa, that's
man.
a secret. Wow.
Yeah. But we all know that, right? I played
Yes.
that game and I shot people, you know.
Yes.
But when I was 7 years old, my dad said, "This is my guns. If you touch my
Yes.
guns, I'm gonna break your fingers."
Yeah.
You know. But I played Contra and killed people.
I don't know. Hey, I don't know. Yeah, well, now again, that was a little figure you saw, and it was. I don't know if these new games are bringing you more. You know, soon you're gonna be jacking in a helmet on, and now you're like really in the. You know, is that more? That's what some people are saying. But then why are they making?
Can
it?
you monitor your? I mean, Nate said, "I don't care that my kid plays video
Yeah.
games, but I don't want my kid getting his entire." And this kind of goes along with social media too. These kids don't even know how to interact with each other anymore unless it's right here, right there. Oh, they're
Yes.
dumb. If you get in front of them, they actually should start doing a class about how to speak and socialize and interact.
Yes, there's gonna have to be another common elective.
You want to play video games? I think we all could say we trust our kids enough to play an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you an hour, maybe even an hour and a
Well,
half.
And maybe
you're
like
talking
on
about
weekends,
we're
all day
talking
Saturday,
about
you
the
know,
government
something like that.
doing everything for people. Is it, you know, we got smart TVs, smart fridges, smart cars. I mean, where have all the smart people gone? Is it just, you know,
Well,
That movie, Idiocracy, is it Idiocracy where they're all just walking around and they don't know what to
yes,
do
that's what I'm saying.
unless
Well-
the
yes,
device tells them.
Yes,
And
yes.
then, you know, and your point of the medication, let's start, you know, when you say medication, now, I mean, that's a really ubiquitous term of anything
General.
from, general. Like, you know, I take anti-inflammatories when you go outside and you mow the lawn or you do some hard work. Oh, man, my back. Okay, but anti-inflammatories. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And, you know, and the whole medication, this is a whole other can of worms that we could go deep in the rabbit hole over. Of course, we know about the Q post about Big Pharma, but let's just break it down on just a real simplistic level. You brought a good point up. You're a parent and you have a child who is very hyperactive. Now, I don't want to label or use any type of mainstream terms. Let's stick to just medical terms. Now they say, well, ADHD has been classified by the American, you know, board, blah blah blah. But let's just be real here. When was it actually classified? Well, they say, oh well, we don't know about this kind of stuff till it's coming out.
Around about. Yeah.
So the problem is you see a child who's extremely energetic. Well, as that child, he may have an hyperactive metabolism.
Of course he
It
does.
means he's not going to be overweight, is he? Because you know why?
Yeah.
He's going to be constantly. Here's a child who needs constant. He needs to be engorging his senses. There are some children who need to have certain type of sensory input. We know these children. Okay, here's a guy who can't really socialize very well, but he's really great at the piano. He's an amazing genius. So we see these identities in our different children. Instead of actually saying and promoting and coursing that, you have a bunch of energy. Well, boy, I'm going to teach you about
Track and field.
track and
Go
field,
to the Olympics
and
and win.
running and hiking and camping and outdoor and all these activities that are going to fulfill or well, as us adults, I have an itch, I wanna go
Cultivate.
scratch it. Cultivate.
Yes.
So you're going to do that. So, but the problem is getting into the moral integrity combined with the medication. Now you have almost this perfect storm of, you know, I can have my children, and if it gets in the way of me and my career or my money or what my agenda is, because I hate this whole #MeToo stuff. That is so selfish. Yeah. Well, our society's become narcissistic to a point of when we medicate and we use medication, what is a typical medication that people use? Well, we've heard recently that we have a huge opiate problem or opioid problem in America.
They're assault drugs.
They're assault drugs.
assault.
Oh yeah, they're angry. They're hate
Those
drugs.
pills jump.
How does
hate
that
drugs.
happen? These 20-year-olds, I know you look at some of the numbers. This would be a good topic, too, if we wanted to get into it and bring up some
Lots of
numbers.
topics.
But we know,
They're flowing.
without going into detail, but yeah, we know some personal things, but that we've seen firsthand. How does a 20 or 22-year-old say, my back hurts, so... you know, how do they get to that point? It's like, my back hurts, I need heroin.
Because
You know, how? You know,
It's the world we grow up in. It's what they're told to believe when you go to the doctor. He gives you a
Yes.
Yes.
So we definitely agree. Yeah, you're coming up on here. And this
Excuses.
is we would love
Excuses.
to have you on the first episode. We talked
Yeah.
exactly about that, and I agree with you 100% because, if there's no accountability, which there is none, if we can just
or very little.
or very little,
I
exactly.
mean, we
There's
can
no
be as
oversight.
accountable as we want, but if we're not the masses,
And so medication, you're talking about everything from painkillers, sleeping aids. Most of the medication that probably we're all referring to in the medication is going to be the psychotropic medications. These are going to be the antidepressants. And when you start getting into any type of what we call the quote unquote mental meds or any type of the psychotropic medication, what that's going to do is now they're using different chemicals to actually change the chemical makeup of your brain, how you
balance.
view things. Why do you think, they say we have a huge heroin epidemic. You can see a guy who shoots up and he's on heroin, is in the gutter, but he's okay with that because inside
He's okay.
He's okay.
Oh,
Hey, it's all right. It's
he's
all
at
right.
peace. He's at
so
one.
if you have a people who is, one, highly medicated, two, non-informed, which we talked about, people use the word ignorant like it's water. Ignorant is just lack of knowledge on a particular subject matter.
doesn't make you stupid.
It doesn't make you
No.
stupid. I mean, like we talked about earlier, I don't know how to fly an airplane. I am ignorant to the procedures and protocols of flying an airplane.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean I can't research it and read some of the guidelines
Yeah.
and rules that they have to abide by.
Dad
and say,
let me
"Oh,
drive my car, but then he would turn right around and tell me, you're ignorant. You broke the rules about your curfew. That didn't mean he didn't trust me driving my car. I just
Yes.
Well, you use medication, and what about this thing that's being not even talked about? What about homeopathic medication? You don't need.
You're not allowed. The doctors aren't allowed.
No, we
It's
know this.
it's
This
it's
is a violation
To their code of the
medical code of
doctor,
ethics
yes.
because they're not using medication prescribed. And let's all
It
be
hurts
real
their
here.
wallet.
How do the doctors that you go see and we
not
all
allowed
go
to
see
pitch
our
it.
kids, how do they get the medication? Oh, there's this new medication online, blah, 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 that does all this kind of stuff.
Because
Well,
a
how does it
sales guy
happen?
came in last week and told me
Yes,
it's
sir.
the next greatest thing and it'll solve all your problems. Push
The
this.
pharmaceutical companies have lobbyists just like
Agendas.
political people, and that's what it is. They're pushing this thing, and the problem is people aren't educated to, one, what they're actually taking and putting inside their bodies. There's this huge push on non-genetically modified food. Why? Well, because if you're not eating a real
It's a
apple,
racket, folks.
it's a racket. Exactly.
Well, even before they like when they start seeing these tall tale signs and this epidemic growing, they really quickly make another pill very similar with just a few chemicals off. The reaction is the same in the
reaction.
human
White
body.
rabbits.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
and they let it-
If you listen to that song, our not our forefathers, but our generation before, some of the greatest songwriters of all time in the 60s, in the 70s, they were writing music that if you really wrap your brain around it, like Alice in Wonderland, if you think, what are in all these pills? If you're telling me it's just a drug, I'm saying it's probably not. I mean, the government knows these drugs are addictive, number one. They alter your brain, like you were talking. They're chemically changing.
It
So
really
why
gets
don't-
back
we should
into
all
the alchemy.
definitely-
Alchemy is what really it gets back to, and,
Yes.
and that's not turning base
Ancient.
metal lead into gold.
Correct.
That's
Yeah, no. That was
dealing
tapping
with,
into it. That
well,
was
you
one
talk
thing they
about-
tried to
that
do.
was one thing.
One angle.
And that goes on with some of the other legends. But you talk about people like what's inside these pills. Well, we know that we're made up of minerals, and so too much iron. You ever heard?
Women have the problem with iron. Yeah,
with
sure.
iron deficiency. Hey, you
Correct.
may need a steak or two this time of month, right? Yeah. Iron
Uh,
deficiency.
Or buy this pill that costs $50 a month, and we'll make sure you have enough.
So if we're talking about disinformation, then they want to create literally, if I can use the word, organic platform that would be able to receive this disinformation at a more easier transmission level. Then of course,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
more
why stay
comfortable.
married? Yeah, why
Yeah.
stay married? It's
Well,
easier to divorce, and you need your kids.
Q
Yeah.
touch.
It's like Joe Camel. You know why they took Joe Camel off of the commercials?
the
Because they were
cigarettes.
afraid of what? Yeah. Well, why?
They don't even have commercial cigarettes anymore.
No, because Joe
Only in
Camel.
magazines.
It was
Is
portrayed to be
magazines still
cool.
allowed?
18
Yeah, the
magazines.
I thought they took them out.
I think you're
I
not
think
al-
they took it out.
Yeah, the smoking.
I mean,
ads.
you're right. Smoking used to be the
smoking,
Marlboro,
the-
the,
they
mail 'em-
skyline of
they
the guy
mail-
on the
you
horse.
remember they had a huge it was about the big tobacco. They all came to court and they were all saying, oh, this is not addictive. Leading up to that, there was an act that you can't do. There's an act called the Smith-Mundt Act, and it basically says the government cannot produce propaganda intentionally to the public.
Yeah.
That's been repealed.
Well,
people.
all those
that's
games
been
that,
repealed.
that,
It's no
that,
longer.
that Joe
They took
Camel
on-
was
they-
over cartoonish because it was a cartoon. It appealed to
It
kids.
appeals. It
Yes.
appeals.
The kids,
But
the
you
young-
know what? This is a capitalist country.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying I smoke, whatever, but I'm not encouraging to put it in front of children's
That's bad
face.
for you, Scott.
But if you're gonna, it is bad for me.
Yeah.
But you know what? I
Let's
have a
talk
little
about that
thing
for a
called
minute, folks.
freedom. I got to think. But
Yes,
my
and I
problem-
support your freedom.
This country was founded off tobacco.
I'm going to spin this so hard right now. There are people that want to take away my right to smoke.
yes.
But they're not. But in the meantime, they're throwing their propaganda into my face.
Oh yeah.
They don't want me
Well,
smoking.
secondhand smoke
I
is
got yelled at
very
for smoking
serious.
outside the other day because the lady smelt me from 40 feet downwind.
We
thought,
have domesticated
Yeah, my
animals
bad.
having.
Do you have to smoke outside?
yeah. Can you? Yes.
yeah.
You know?
But the funniest one
What's
is
that one where the guy's barbecuing? Did you guys see that? Oh my!
Let's spin. Here's morale. Here is a morale.
Can you
problem.
keep your barbecue smoke on your own yard?
said individual, and this is, and you can Google it. I love the Googles.
nuts, folks.
I love
Nuts.
the Googles. This man is barbecuing, and the neighbor filed a complaint because his barbecue smoke was coming into his yard, and he doesn't like barbecue
Over
smoke.
his fence and
So,
around.
a city official shows up, and he's got his man satchel on. It was really
was
cute.
I could pull this up.
And
We
he
should pull this
says,
up for the
you
folks.
should try to Google it. The Googles are good. I love Googling. So this city official shows up and tries to explain to said gentleman, what you're doing is illegal. And he goes, it doesn't matter what his ethnicity was, but he says, man, what are you talking about? I'm barbecuing.
Yeah.
And the city official says, well, you're breaking the law. Your smoke, just like a fire, is bothering the neighbors. And this guy loses it. And he's got friends with him. And they're all laughing at this city official. And this guy didn't. They were speaking in such layman's terms back to this city
Official,
employee
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that he still didn't get it. Like at some point he should have went, Jesus, you know what? You're right. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But the phone rang, and I was told here to come here and file a complaint.
Just trying to do my job. That's all I'm trying to do.
It goes back to idiocracy. Well,
Well,
this
no,
is
you-
what I was told to do.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh my
wrong, or
gosh.
indifferent. I
With
have
the
to do.
blinders
Yeah.
on. Well, it's interesting because we can associate that exact same story. In some states, and if I can narrow it down to some counties, isn't there a leaf burning law? You can only burn leaves at a certain part of time. Now I know we all roll our, but that's almost the same point because, I burn my leaves. Oh my gosh, and the smoke goes to my neighbor's yard, and she may have a respiratory issue, and that's the kind of stuff. And I'm thinking to myself,
Take some medication.
there you go.
Here we go, folks.
Expand your lungs. Okay,
Show it for a
gotta pull it
second,
up.
just
There
for a
we
second.
go.
We'll tap into this.
Are you
here.
gonna-
Whether it's real or not, I haven't verified, but regardless, this is what it's kind of.
Well, from my experience, said individual looks like a city official. He's got the satchel. He's got the walkie-talkie, and there's those ribs.
Official, huh?
You know what?
Let's hear this.
How would you not like the smell of that food?
My observations off your site here that you have smoke leaving, that's prohibited. And you
What's the
have an exec
consequences?
order.
Okay, so what is
Department.
what is a barbecue grill for if you can't smoke?
Right. Why do they sell
Allowed
it?
to do whatever
Why
you
do they
want
sell it at
within-
Publix?
You are within your property line.
I
as
have
long
a
as-
tent over my grill. I'm in my back.
So we're supposed to control the smoke and the wind where it's blowing.
Okay, so you can't smoke in public almost anywhere these days.
You can't.
Nuts, folks.
Somebody was awfully offended.
Well, and that's what it boils down to. It's like, okay, so
You come over to my
it's
yard
law
like
in
the
Pinellas
cartoon.
County,
You see
Florida?
the guy running over with a
Evidently.
bucket of water and throwing it on my barbecue.
So, you know
Jack,
what?
you just trespassed. You got bigger problems than my smoke in your property.
I don't know about you, but I would say that of an extremely American patriotic act that a man. Now, I'm not talking about women because I'm a man.
Careful with that word. Purdue just said you can't say man anymore.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
hold on now.
We just
Now,
talked about that.
As a biological
Man.
male,
Man.
I can say that on myself because I identify with my genetics. I can say that my opinion that any patriot American man has a passion for cooking flesh over a grill.
good. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
how many commercials, Ballpark Franks, and all these different commercials that
It offends
depict
me.
the
offends me.
American family huddled around the sacred grill, and we're this act. I mean, literally, we take time out of our day for grills and we've tailgating.
Country Squire, 1971
Okay.
station wagon. One of their commercials was, "Let's jump in the Country Squire and go to the park and have a barbecue."
That's right.
Yes. Now,
Have the barbecue inside your Country Squire with the windows rolled up and
Keep that smoke on your own property, folks. It's offending me.
so what
That
clause
is-
in the law is that I have to somehow? I'm now going to be prosecuted under the act of God. I mean, if my house gets hit by a tornado, then my insurance won't cover because they call it an act of God.
Right. Oh, God, yeah.
You know, and so if
I want somebody to call in or email or comment. I want somebody to tell me, a lawyer. Hopefully, we need to get a lawyer on this show. I mean, and you can not even agree with our
If we
views,
have
but
somebody out in the audience as a lawyer,
What-
maybe we can.
what's the chances of that person could serve jail time?
Oh, probably real chances
who-
because
you know.
that other person. See, the difference between when you have two humans and one human is harming another. Now you fall under the law of the land. It's a civil case.
Is that assault
yeah.
though? Is he like
It
you're
could
assaulting
be.
my feelings?
Well, it couldn't be. It couldn't be actually as a physical assault, but what you're doing
Emotional.
Well, you could be having a destruction of private property because your smoke is going across to his property, and if it's putting soot on his window, or let's say
You
he
made
has
me hungry.
you had a respiratory issue,
Oh.
and so smoke is going over to his property, and if your barbecue is somehow affecting his health, he could sue you for actual physical assault.
Here's the AR statement of the day. So said man's
Okay.
barbecuing makes me hungry. I go down to McDonald's. I eat that cheeseburger. It kills me because of all the fats.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the cheeseburger's fault?
Or the neighbors.
Did the spoon make me fat?
Or is it?
Did the gun actually kill? I mean, now can I go back and sue that man because under normal circumstances I wouldn't have eaten that cheeseburger? But we're in America now, so I can be offended and sue whoever I want.
No, you're not. This
Instead of being
isn't-
logical.
This isn't crazy talk. This has happened before.
This happens every day in this
Every
country.
day.
Yes.
Somebody got sued in Wisconsin for walking their goat across a city street on a Sunday afternoon.
They probably didn't have the proper certifications and
Oh,
permits
yeah,
and the
that's-
You
actual.
can't
for that day
wash
of walk.
the said goat on a Tuesday or something. I mean, there's a book called Unnecessary or Weird.
Yeah.
Laws
that are still in the
where-
books that are archaic or something.
So our tax dollars are at use with some of these things. You're spending so much money on dumb stuff.
Well,
this
and
is
it's
this
hard.
goes
No,
back to
you're right.
morality, right?
This is it's a huge morality thing because
are-
it's like if you know what you're doing is you're taking away freedoms that people that take for granted every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking the fact that we all can come here on our own volition and sit down and have a conversation and
For how
drive
much
here
longer?
for how much longer?
I'm a little nervous when I leave Mike's house now. No, sorry, I just let it out there. I mean, that's where, but whatever.
Well,
but-
I mean, you know, the thing is like, I have a little bit of a computer background, and obviously, even those who don't have any type of IT background, you know, from not only the media, the movies. Oh, we have another guest. That what's happening is they know where you're at.
Yeah.
If you have a bank account, they can.
Sure.
Now, when we say they, that could be a very large. You know, we know that there are certain agencies that already have certain programs that were wrote by programmers that do very specific tasks to basically, get our information, catalog that. There's something that's been happening going for a very long time, which is basically it's data mining, archiving all your basic stuff. And so when we have that kind of stuff happening, exactly. So when you have this overt power collecting this information, one, they know how to better manipulate you because the psychology of the human brain's been around for thousands of years. They know how to fracture the mind.
Sure.
You know, and so if they know how to fracture the mind, they know how to market to you. They know all this kind of stuff. And so if whoever
It's
they
about
may
control and marketing.
Well, and if they're using all of the tools at their disposal to get their agenda across. And the only things that we have here is basically truth to combat what
Correct.
their agenda is. And so what's hard is when you're sitting here and you're talking about medication and all this kind of stuff, medication will take away the shaming. If you're so medicated, how can you be shamed?
Yeah.
You know, people talking about coming out and like, oh, well, you know, we talk about all these things, these hard things are going through, and this, and I just can't do it. I need this special attention, or I need certain people to abide by how I feel. Then that just, it really bleeds into the definitions of insanity.
Oh,
doing
yeah.
the same thing
Doing
over
the
and
same
over.
thing
Going
over
and
and over.
expecting
Yeah.
different result.
Why didn't
Yeah.
this change this
Now at that
time?
point, we are nearing the 50-minute mark, folks. I want to
50 minutes.
I want to close this out. I'm going to give these two guys the last chance. I just want to say, if you welcome to the Patriot Hour. No, subscribe, like, share,
Hit the bell.
please comment,
Ring
ring
the
that
bell.
bell. Definitely share it. Subscribe if you haven't, so you don't miss any of our new content, folks. We don't want to miss you missing anything. And on all that topic, we're going over with a lot of this to touch base to close out on the first episode. If you haven't seen, we have a part 1. This is going to be labeled as part 2. I'll come up with something, but it's like with Popeye, the sailor man said, "That's all I can stands, 'cause I can't stands no more."
Right.
So
Scott, your clothing, the whole thing that we've done today. What are your clothes? Take a minute or two, tell the folks.
it's deep. It's I don't know where to start. I mean, we've jumped around. The garage segment was great. It got my brain going. I'm going to go home and I'm going to make some notes and make sure that when I come back, I have some facts. I love the facts and stuff. But basically, what I want our listeners to understand is we're not here to listen. I'm not going to care if you're offended. But we're not here to beat you up or say you're right or you're wrong or we're right or we're wrong.
Or try to offend you. We're not trying. We're just standing up for. Yeah. We're trying to be consistent. In our values.
We have a constitution, and I guess I'll go back to what I hammered on earlier. There's 3 pillars, right, in my house, and probably here as well. We have God, and then you have your family, but you can't put yourself first, right? So as long as you take a step back and realize you're here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to do good. Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to work at being evil. If you want to be evil, tune us out, because we're not going to get through to you. Tune in, help us, suggest things, comment, give us some feedback. We're learning at this. We're trying to get our message out, but we'll help you get your message out as well. So, on that note, protect your rights, because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Don't give up anything either.
No, I agree. And with all this being said, we've talked about, I think the bottom line is don't trust us. Don't come and do exactly what we say. Do the research for yourself. If you think
pull the facts.
Pull the facts, because that's what we want to do. We want to base what we're doing off of facts, and we want to basically. We all recognize that there is a real need right now, more than any more time in our history, that the truth, the unadulterated, unedited, pure truth is to come out, and then from there we need to decide what we're going to do.
Digest all that.
Digest all of that, and then trim it in. It's like, why is this stuff happening?
Chew the meat, spit out the bone.
Yes.
It's not going to happen overnight either.
No, and so I think that's where all
probably a
truth.
majority of the people tuning in and subscribing are probably already awoke a little bit, I would imagine.
No, they're not tuning in if they aren't awake.
right.
That's for sure.
That's right.
We're probably
Hopefully.
not capturing an audience that is asleep.
Well, I think it really goes back
they dwell
to,
here
to
sometimes
the,
on YouTube.
Well, you look at the Patriot Hours.
I did.
What's the Patriot Hours mission statement? I mean, that I believe that we're all firmly behind that 100%. And
To promote freedom and liberty and the truth. That's it. Simple.
That's it and simple. And so everything that we talk about literally fall under our God-given rights that are outlined in the Constitution that prescribed how we are to function as an American society.
Recognize that you have those rights, and no government, because it says right there in that Constitution, no government of ours has the right to remove any of those rights.
How can you take away what God has given you?
Amen, brother.
Amen to all of our listeners. Subscribe, like, share. We'll see you here real soon.